What is going on, everyone? AP over here at Run Pure Sports, bringing to you once again. We got the lineup builder show with our partner Sabersim. I got my two guys in here. I got Rubio Dimes and Statsational. Before we dive into the agenda for today, I do want to hand out some tickets. Here's the rules for the ticket giveaway. I'm going to give one out randomly to someone in the YouTube chat. And then I do want to give a member, and this is for the $100 single entry, which is what I chopped with two other people last week, or on Monday this week, and all these days are just blending together. It's freaking wild. The other one is going to go to a member. I want to know. All right, so our guy Statsational, his close rate with the ladies is just insane. I mean, top notch. The stories I hear are incredible. In the live show chat in the Discord, I want to know where our guy Statsational is taking his ladies. So the best comment there is going to win a $100 ticket. And with that in mind, I want John Statsational to talk a little bit about the Sharp app, the proptimizer tool, which is something that's free for members right now. Obviously, it's going to be a package in the future, but John, talk to us a little bit about the Sharp app and how you can use this, especially for showdown slates.
Yeah, so I'm pumped that we've got this going on now at Run Pure. So there's two versions. There's two different sheets that you're going to see, or two different pages on the website. The one you're looking at there is the proptimizer for the top props, and that is going to show you all the props in the market, then the Sharp app's projections on what that prop may be, and then where the edges are going to be on that prop based on those projections. Now, the way I tend to use this is I do my own analysis, and then I hop in and I look at the top props and see where I'm in agreement with the model that the Sharp app has, and then those I feel like are stronger plays, and then I may jump on those. A little tricky when it comes to yardage, because I've always said yardage is probably the hardest thing to predict, because the same run from the 20-yard line of your own 20 may yield a 60-yard play, as opposed to running it from the other 20 is only 20. So I think those are a little tougher. I prefer the counting stats. I like receptions and rushing attempts and things like that. I think they're a little bit easier to calculate, but you're going to get a whole bunch of stats here, props in here. The only thing you're not going to see are anything like anytime touchdown, anything that's a yes/no, but anything that's an over/under, you're going to see in here. So from this, though, what I like for DFS players, the top players in the world tend to use props in all sports to figure out how they're going to play whatever it is, and especially showdown. So when you look at, if you go to the prop market, go to like the filter there, go to like passing yardage, total passing yards. There you go. You'll see it in there. Go up there. Yeah, so total passing yards. So like really quickly, you'll be able to get an idea. You're going to get the best price there. So 248.5 is the best price on the over at FanDuel for Hurts. So really, you do the math. Let's say it's 250 yards. That's about 10, right? That's 10 points for yardage. And then you can do the same thing for Cousins, right? So 264.5, if you did the math, that's about 10.5. So you could go ahead and do that. Do it for his rushing numbers, and do it for projected touchdowns. If you go on whatever app for sports betting, anytime touchdown score. And I think Hurts tonight, like anytime, is just about even money. So you're going to give him an added 6 points. So it's real simple to do. Within like a minute, you'll get a good projection on where the sports betting markets think the fantasy points are going to be. And I think that's important to look at, not just our projections or whatever projections you're using, but kind of see where the market is at, because the market is highly liquid. It's the wisdom of the crowd mentality, and that's taking into account where people are actually putting their money. And sometimes that's going to be even more accurate. So, and then to that point, if you go to the props, the proptimizer for Prize Picks up there, if you hit the Prize Picks, using that, what I just said, and using the sports books again. So if you go to NFL, we can look at tonight's game, but we've got all the baseball in there right now, of course. You got to go to NFL, I think. But if you look at, let's say, tonight's game, you'll be able to see where the sports books are on a price or on a prop, and then you take the projection, just like I did for you on the, on the Hertz, let's say, passing yardage, but you'll take the projection on the consensus at the sports books and then use that number against Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is often off from where the number is. So if you see that first one, what is it, Hunter on his tackles, solo and assist. So the market is 3.5 plus 105. That translates to about a 3.92 projection. And then the under 4 has a 50, whatever probability is, a little small for me to see there, 55%. So it sounds a little bit more complicated than it is, but all you're doing is using the sportsbook projection against Prize Picks there, and then finding the best plays. Not a ton tonight for this game, but you'll see over the weekend a lot of them are going to be really nice to pick off Prize Picks before they move. I think we had Herbert yesterday, and it moves. This is what happens. I think the Herbert touchdowns was 1.5 on the over, and then they took it down. So I think I posted it on my Twitter. That really nice price right now. You were getting like a 62.5% chance of hitting it. And then within a few hours, Prize Pick took it down. So you got to kind of monitor this and pick off the good ones when you see them and make your Prize Picks plays. So two tools that I think are going to be really helpful, especially for DFS players and those of us in states where you can't necessarily bet the props and you like the Prize Picks. So just a little overview.
Yeah, and Statsational has been absolutely crushing it with the props and the bets. I don't have his record up right now, but you can easily see it over at rumpiersports.com. Go over to the bet side, and yeah, I mean, there you go. Rubio Dimes is on it. I mean, 30.9 units in the month of September, 29 and 16. Very impressive stuff. Go back to the proptimizer real quick, Rubio. There was something that says an edge and then a rating. Can you just give a brief touch on that and how that's calculated, or how to interpret that?
Well, yeah. So the edge is just going to be the difference between what the probability or what the line should be based on the. Gotcha. Now this is based on the SA, which is the Sharp app projection. So again, it's difficult with yardage, but we'll take this one. It's the top one up there, Cousins yardage. So they're basically predicting almost double the yardage that the sports books are. So it's giving you about a 27.5% edge if you take the over. And then the ratings are just based on how large of an edge it is. So it's just another way to look at the edge on that rating column. So it's going to just be sorted for you by the largest edges that you see.
Awesome. That's incredible stuff. Rubio, do you have any additional comments just kind of on the proptimizer? And I really see it as something that we can incorporate into showdown slates specifically, especially one like tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I love props as much as anyone. Obviously, we know that the path to getting limited may be hitting the props a little too hard on sports books, but I will say this, like Prize Picks and everything like that, these 5 picks that you can do over the weekend, whether it's NFL, NCAA, I can attest that these props you put into the chat each time, sensational, are just awesome. And I'll send it to a couple of my friends who barely play, barely bet or anything. They'll just be like, oh, man, I need those props, because that's how efficient they've been, man. And I do know that, especially with this edge, how it analyzes it too. I love the fact that it tells you, when we were in the Prize Picks, it basically gave you the sportsbooks props too. Like, that's just really nice to have. And I know, we focused on this game, but you can even see here how some of these get 61% chance and stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
just for fantasy there, yeah, you could just look at the sportsbook projection, so you don't have to do some of the calculations. Like for MLB, it's maybe not so easy to in your head figure out the strikeout projector. Just go in there if you're doing, if you're playing MLB DFS, and you'll get the sports. That SB projection is just based on sportsbook lines, so that's going to give you a really good idea where the sportsbooks right now are projecting strikeouts for that player.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it really is such a good tool. I love it.
Yeah, very good. All right, back to our agenda today. So the NFL code, or NFL 17% off for life, is still active. I believe it's going to be active through week 2. So you don't have too much more time to take advantage of that code. We have, as we always do on Mondays and Thursdays specifically, we have an aggressive agenda. We have cash breakdown coming up after this show. That's a premium piece of content that we have. We have the Print Factory with Big T, JSU, and Whistles Go Woo. And I believe Whistles is going to, again, showcase a tool that he's working on. We got a sneak peek of it last night. And I believe they're gonna go over that again today on the show. So make sure that you tune into the Print Factory later on today. And then we have the Showdown Kings with Wiley and JBC taking us up to lock. And then a few of us will hop on there. I know Big T has been hopping on each and every day. So an aggressive agenda, a lot to cover. But again, we love these showdown slates. And Rubio, what was it, last week hit for what, 67K? You know, I had a nice Monday. And now I know one of our members is going to ship tonight. So let's get into it. Let's do what we do each and every week, or each and every time we break down the show. Let's start out with our base build, and I think this slate's going to be interesting because running backs is going to be the discussion. Obviously, Gainwell I believe is ruled out. So DeAndre Swift, huge disappointment in week 1. A loaded backfield, though, with Rashad Penny, Boston Scott still in there. And then on the Vikings side, I mean, it's just tough to run on the Eagles. So, Rubio, let me hand it off over to you. What is our base build? So talk a little bit about the base build and what we're trying to accomplish with that. And then what's it looking like for the showdown slate tonight?
Yeah, our base build, we're basically trying to see, what the optimizer is pushing. We're not using Sims or anything like that. We're just using the optimizer. And you can initially see, with the fact that Kenneth Gainwell is out, it could be a DeAndre Swift day. You could see him a lot in the captain from a lot of people because of how the pricing of the Philadelphia Eagles running backs are. Kenneth Gainwell was, $7K here on the slate. He's out, and all 3 Philly running backs come into play because they're 4K, 1.6K, 2.2K. We have a lot of unknowns here with the Philadelphia Eagles backfield. We don't know if it's going to be completely DeAndre Swift's backfield, or it could be a 3-headed monster. They're all cheap enough to be able to kind of hit those builds. And in the captain, that might be a popular move. That's what the optimizer is pushing right now. But I do like the fact that, if you can get different, just playing one of the highest scorers in the captain, you don't have to get different. I mean, that should be the way that we're playing the slate. Play Jalen Hurts in the captain over some of these guys here, because I still don't want to really tempt fate with a captain running back build, but that seems to be all it's pushing, AP.
Yeah, so can you click over to the captains real quick? I want to see what the breakdown was. And then did you run this with what settings did you use when you ran this?
We used just basically the average projections and just the uniques one. We basically have just the projected score, the top projected lineups, the top 20 teams right now projected wise. No randomness set. We'll set the randomness a little bit later.
Yeah, and then can you go back over to the players, and then can you sort by captain? I just want to see what the breakdown is, because it is going to create kind of an interesting situation here with the cheap running backs, obviously. And if we run a script, all right, so yeah, we're getting a ton of DeAndre Swift. Oh, man. I already know how this is going to go. Statsational, let me kick it over to you. What's your thoughts on this first? So what Rubio's doing here is he's averaging the projections, and he's just running, a baseline optimal to see what our initial allocation of players are. What's your initial take with what you're seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, I like to do the same thing. So I like to run an optimal just to see where my projections are going to be leading me when we're doing MME. But yeah, the running backs don't look great in this game, but at the prices, you're going to have to use some of these backs to get in a Hurts and some of the pass catching options. So yeah, we were talking before, like running backs, like Philly running backs, like the last thing I want to do is play Philly running backs, but I think it's going to be I think you're going to have to today to maybe get the best, because I think ultimately this is a passing game. I think that's just what the numbers are showing when you look at the props that like we just looked at, and you look at projections. I think this is a Hurts game. When you look last year, both of these teams, well, certainly offensively, both teams were great at the quarterback and the wide receiver position, but Minnesota was the best team to game stack last year, because they were so good offensively at the quarterback and wide receiver spot, and they were atrocious at what they gave up at that spot. Now, last week you had Philly giving up, I think, the second most quarterback points to on the slate to Mac Jones, which is like nobody saw that coming. One game, I know, but if they're going to give up that many points to Jones, Cousins and this offense, who knows? So I think it's going to be high scoring, and you're going to have to, again, you're going to have some running backs in here. I don't think we're going to see a slate where we get the defenses in the nuts as we had in the last couple of times. So I think this is going to be all offense. And then you know how it goes with running backs. It's like whoever falls into the end zone when they get down close. So you're going to have a mix of these running backs in there.
Yeah, really good points. Another thing too. So I agree with you there, Statsational. Just so if you go over to runpuresports.com, we have another tool also where you can look at the past optimal showdown lineups for each team. Now, I got, as a finance guy, I got to say it each and every time I bring this tool up, but past performance, not indicative of future success, but it is still telling and gives us kind of a script to build off of. Jalen Hurts was optimal in the captain spot 8 times last year. Who was the player on the Minnesota Vikings that was optimal the same amount of times as Jalen Hurts? Justin Jefferson. So it's kind of like we talked about Mahomes, and then for me on Monday, it was Josh Allen. And that's who I ran with at the captain spot. I already love how this is setting up. Just because these running backs are cheap, it's going to naturally, based off of the average projections like we've just seen, going to force them into that captain spot to get these skill players in the flex. I already like the idea. I already see a few scripts that I want to run to where we're focused on the Justin Jeffersons and Jalen Hurts of the world. So Rubio, let's start another build and let's get some bias added into it. And while we're doing that, and we have a few ways of doing that. But while we're working on that, again, NFL 17% off for life is still active. I think it's going to be active through the weekend. So if you're not a member, sign up. Come try us out for a week, a month, whatever. Use that code though, NFL 17. Get that discount locked in. But Rubio, let's get into this. And I see one thing that we can do really easily here. We can go over to the captain spot. Maybe we just take out, and I'll hand this back to you, but what if we just take out those running backs? Just eliminate them from being captain viable, and let's see what that does. Is that something that you ever do when you're trying to, add some, manipulation into your builds?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I definitely, I think I felt it last time with even Rodgers. I was getting a ton of Rodgers. It ended up, obviously it didn't really pan out the way I would have expected it to. But I kind of just took Rodgers out of the pool for a minute just to see what it would hit. And it became a lot of Garrett Wilson, Diggs, and obviously Josh Allen too. So that ended up being the case. But I think we're going to go ahead and rerun it here real quick. So I took out Goddard, Hawk, Madison, Smith, Brown. So basically all the pass catching options. We'll add in Osborne and Addison just for fun, and we'll see where this kind of gets us. I bumped the top guys here a little bit. Hurts, Jefferson, Cousins, Brown. I'll even bump Osborne a little bit because I heard he could have had a big day. So just adding in some bias right here, just initially off the start. I'll bump Goddard down just because he didn't record a single stat last week, right? So let's see here. Bump the Philly running backs down just a tad, primarily Swift. And let's go ahead and run it here with some randomness as well. We'll do 150. And
I mean, Rubio, talk about the game too. Like we have 2 receivers that are going to get a ton of target share. We have a quarterback on the Philly side that, loves to use his feet too and can vulture touchdowns at the goal line, which is another, hit to the running backs there. But how do you see this game playing out tonight?
I see it going over, and I also see the Eagles kind of kicking ass. I think the Vikings definitely can take advantage of this weakened secondary, but it depends on how well that offensive line holds up, and I don't know if it will. The Eagles' D-line was very aggressive against Mac Jones, and I'll give Patriots Bill Belichick a lot of credit. They chucked it 54 times, and they had a damn good chance to knock down the Eagles. I don't want to completely just disregard, but going back to the link, back home to Philadelphia, one of the worst places to play if you're an opposing team, I just don't see how the Eagles don't get it done. I mean, this Vikings defense, they couldn't hold Baker Mayfield at all or anything like that. And I just think that we see a masterclass from Jalen Hurts. He shows us why, he's one of the top guys in the league. I will go ahead and here I just ran these 150 builds. Look how much Jalen Hurts captain we got. I know I bumped him up 3 points, but I also did the same for Jefferson, Brown, and I even bumped up Cousins a couple points. But I kind of like the captain numbers a lot more here, AP. I think it's just Jalen Hurts or bust because I think the Eagles win by double digits today.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna, not like a Jalen Hurts captain. I put him up there with Josh Allen, Mahomes, like I said. Statsational. Let me actually first. Do we agree with our guy? I got to give one of these tickets out. I'm looking at Irvin Barkley. I mean, a speakeasy, jazz lounge, dark lighting. I don't think you need that kind of backdrop to close the deal, but I think we got to give our guy Irvin Barkley here one of these tickets. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's not totally wrong there. I do like the I do like a jazz lounge. So I've done that move before. The speakeasies though they're a pain in the ass because it takes you forever to get a drink because it's always like these craft cocktails that take 20 minutes to make and like I don't have a lot of patience. Like I start getting the shakes if I'm at a bar and I can't get the drink really quickly. So
I'm the same way, man. Yeah, if I don't have my drink, I mean, Big T, Rubio, you guys know. If I don't have my drink within a few minutes, I'm starting to shake as well. Irvin Barkley, I'm going to give you that first $100 ticket. Hit me up on Twitter. Just shoot me a DM, and we'll get that situated. You got to use it in the $100 single entry 20K to first, though. That's and you got to send me a screenshot to make sure that you did it. Those are the rules. You got to abide by the rules. Statsational, let me go back to you. Let's talk about this. So how are you liking these builds? And talk to me about on a slate like this one where Big T, if you remember, go into the live show chat. And again, I haven't picked a member yet to win. I want to know where our guy Statsational is taking his ladies to close the deal. But our guy Big T, he posted a nice picture in there. So go in there, have some fun. Statsational. So talk to me a little bit about when you get a slate like this, you and JBC, where I think we lean to the over. How are you approaching it? How many captains are you typically looking at? Is that something that you even define, or do you let the numbers just do what the numbers do?
No, definitely going to X out almost everybody at the captain. That's typically most of the showdown slates. Quarterbacks are almost universally going to be in the captain spot. And then probably, it's going to be game dependent. But in a game like this, it'll be, Cousins, Hurts, Jefferson. And
what about any of these cheap running backs? Will they sneak in?
No. They won't make their way to the captain spot. So we'll probably some AJ Brown. And then that's going to be it for the captain spots. And the argument that you get is always that, those are going to be the chalkiest plays, which they will be. And JBC talks about it in the chat. He's like, I'd rather do what you guys have done, which is chop a big one than wipe out. So if we chop a bunch of them during the course of the year, that's going to play out to equal hitting one major one, right? So hitting one for like $100,000 or whatever it is. So that's kind of the logic behind that. And I think in a game like this, I agree with you guys. I think there's going to be points here tonight. Maybe you get a little leverage on Cousins because the whole Cousins on primetime narrative, like, he does have some pretty crappy primetime games. So you might be able to get some leverage with because he may be a little less owned than he would normally be. But when you look at the numbers, you look at the projections, you look at last season, Minnesota's defense, real tough to think that Hurts is not going to be the highest scorer in this game. It's just a matter of can Cousins keep it close enough to the point where he becomes the optimal at that price differential. I just did a quick, before we went on, I was looking this morning just to see how many times did Cousins beat Hurts last year head to head. And it never happened except for the last week of the season. So as good as Cousins had, again, he had some really good weeks. It was like every one of those weeks, Hurts was a little bit better. So, and really combined, they only had I throw the week 18 out, but they only had 2 weeks where the both of them were kind of crappy in the mid and crappy was in the low teens. So you got to expect that the quarterbacks are going to be one of these quarterbacks, if not both, are going to score enough where they're going to be the captain. And the only way that changes if you get multiple touchdowns from one of these wide receivers, I think.
Yeah, really good comments. And when I looked it up last year, these two teams played. I think it was in week 2. Very similar setup, but it was in Philly, and it was a wild game. It was Jalen Hurts captain, Devonta Smith, Goddard, Eagles defense. There's the defenses again. Irv Smith and Quez Watkins. It was a 5-1 towards the Philly side, which is interesting. Rubio, let me kick it back to you. Same question back to you regarding just your captain pool. And a game like this where we like the quarterbacks, we like the receivers, we got those cheap running backs, though, that could sneak in. Are you doing anything similar to where you are? I mean, because you've had more success than a lot of people lately, especially, in Showdown. Are you eliminating captains like that, or are you just letting kind of the numbers do what the numbers do?
I'm with Statsational mentioned it last Thursday too. Week 1, how basically with Mahomes, you throw and Goff and Amon-Ra, and that was it, and that's all I did that week too, or that game, I should say. And I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going to keep Swift in, but I'm going to limit him. I'm going to make sure his projection is low enough to where he's not hitting he's an absurd 80% of our builds right now. But I do want him in the captain just in case if he is the main primary back, because he's very effective out of the backfield with his hands. So that'd be the one place. I love the Philly wide receiver. I love A.J. Brown. I've loved them the entire offseason coming in. And I'll say this. I think the one way I'll get a little bit different is probably I won't adjust Jefferson entirely too much high. I think I love Hurts over Jefferson straight up. And I might take that stand where, I'm not going to eliminate just Jefferson from my captain pool, but he might have a very similar projection to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And I know people might think, oh, why? That's absurd. Jefferson had a lot of single-digit outputs last year. And I think when I'm speaking more from a single entry and 3-entry max, that's where we had our success, AP. It wasn't in the large field tournaments, right? Like MME. It was in our single entry, limited entry maxes that basically propelled us to have not the best lineup in the world, but it was the one that, able to win those single entries. I'm looking at a Jetta's fade for sure. I think that these quarterbacks are so consistent, and if Justin Jefferson's doing amazing, well, Kirk Cousins is probably not too far behind. And I like these Philly wide receivers over him a little bit tonight. So that's probably where I'm going to get a little difference. I won't project Jefferson too high. I'll keep Swift in, but kind of limit his projection to where, like I said, not 80% of the teams or whatever. And then probably just dominate with Hurts at 60% captain or so.
I love that. I mean, when you just think about, all right, so going back to week 1, just on Sunday, Philly, I mean, they made Mac Jones look decent. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's 35 for 54th, over 300 yards passing. And now enter in Justin Jefferson, a guy that I think will be able to get, I don't think anyone in the secondary for Philly is going to be able to cover him. We know he's going to get the targets. So I can already see the script in my head, and it fits really good for my style, which is single entry and 3 max. And Rubio, you hit on a good point. On Mondays and Thursdays and Sundays, first thing I do in the morning is go and reserve all those 3 max single entry. Even if I'm running one lineup, I just reserve them all and make sure that I get in before they fill. A lot of them fill up pretty quickly. Those are my money contests for how I like to play, just because going back to Monday, I didn't hit the nuts. I hit a build good enough, though, to chop first place in the single entry contest. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I think it's going to be – I think the single entry and 3 max routes, especially for a slate like tonight, where you looked at – if you go back to our base build with a lot of the projected optimals, throwing in one of those cheap running backs, all we got to fade is a cheap running back, getting into the box and having some other production there. So I see a few things here. I love the quarterbacks, specifically Jalen Hurts, because we know he can get it done on the ground. On the Minnesota side, I love Justin Jefferson. I don't like Cousins as much, but we know that Jefferson is just going to get all of the targets there. Do you ever create a rule? Because we could go into group, we could create a group rule. We could put all the running backs in there, and we could just say, hey, I only want, or we could group together, say, the Philly backfield, and we could limit it to one of Who would it be? So Gainwell's out. It's DeAndre Swift, Penny, and Scott. I think that's something that you could do. The Vikings side, I don't like running on this Philly team. I think it's going to be tough. Alexander Madison is going to be the usage guy. I feel far more confident in the Vikings backfield. So maybe we don't touch that. Are you ever creating these kind of group rules like that when you have a situation that's quite uncertain? Well, Rubio.
Yeah, there's a chance that you could go with a max of one Philly running back tonight, but I don't know. You never really get this situation where it's an elite offense with 3 running backs all priced 4K or below, and 2 of them are good values. Obviously, you saw in some of these builds that it had Boston Scott with Swift, or it had Penny with Swift, right? I don't know if I love that. Like right here, you see it right here. This is a great team. If Philly does all their work on the ground, you're going to be like, oh, damn, this is really nice. Does that have the upside to win? What is it? A mil tonight? Is it $1 million prize pool up top? Actually, don't.
Yeah, it's a flat $1
I don't know.
What about kickers though? Because we know there's going to be points here. I'm trying to do anything I can to get away from these running backs that are going to be overowned. At least they're projecting to be overowned. Statsational is this. So I think we all agree we don't like defenses tonight. It is a Thursday slate. So if you have a gut feeling out there and you want to run like a Philly defense and play on that Kirk Cousins is dog shit in primetime narrative, I mean, keep the Philly defense in there. But Statsational, in these games where we're projecting the game to go over, are you introducing kickers into your builds?
See, I think the games that go over typically won't have the kickers in there. It's the games that go under. It's that, it's the 5 field goal type of game. So if we're expecting a lot of touchdowns, we probably won't get the kickers in the mix. Just extra points just don't get it done for the kickers. So, yeah, I mean,
good point.
Possibly, but I think it would have to be a lopsided game, and I mean really lopsided to the point like something like the Giants offense of a few nights ago or something like that. But I just can't see that happening on a game like this. So yeah, I'm not going to be heavy on kickers at all. And JBC, if you get in the chats with him, I mean he'll start going crazy on kickers. Like people, I think Big T likes to throw a kicker in there for the in the captain spot. I don't know if he's going to be doing that tonight, but he loves to get into it with Big T on those playing kickers at captain. So I wouldn't do that tonight. Like I said, I'd be pretty limited on my captains. I think, again, use the prop markets when you're looking at running backs tonight. Like right now, it looks like they have like Swift is probably going to be the lead guy. So if you want to look at the market as the day goes on, look at the markets for rush attempts, even not so much the yardage, just kind of look at rush attempts. That's going to tell you who the market expects to be the lead back. So that's going to help you out with your builds, at least if you just want to go with one back from Philly and you want to take who you think is going to be the lead back in your lineups. When you were talking about having 2 backs, yeah, not necessarily something that I think is going to happen, but I don't limit it. So those builds where you do have the 2 backs in there, I'm going to keep it. I just think because of the price, if they can get in the end zone, there's a good chance that they'll be part of the winner. So you could get 2 different running backs here in the winning build. So I try not to limit my builds in all sports too much. I think the more you tinker with it, the worse these optimizers work. So I think it's more of kind of clear out the captains that you don't like, mess around with your projections to increase and decrease the exposure that you want, and sort of let her rip.
Another interesting route that I see is, let's just say we're running that Philly script. We like Jalen Hurts. We like AJ Brown, who's likely to be the top target there. We can always look at like a Jordan Addison. He got a bunch of targets last week. We know that Philly's going to try to do whatever they can to take away Justin Jefferson, a very difficult thing to do, in my opinion. Maybe we'll look at the wide receiver number 2. Are we getting him at all in the flex spot, Rubio? I'm just trying to do Yeah, I'm trying to do anything I can to get away from these running backs. I just know that they're going to tilt me later tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the pricing here too. I mean, I guess kind of getting different with your structure. I had KJ Osborne bumped up. I didn't really bump up.
I mean, Osborne is right in that discussion too, but they're priced kind of in that no man's land, where you need a home run touchdown probably from especially KJ Osborne. I mean, he's got that upside in him, but I mean, again, we know the target's going to go to Jefferson.
Yeah, Osborne was really effective last week, if I remember right. I think he has a lot of targets. I think Matty Ice was in the chat talking about it too.
6 targets, yeah.
Yeah, and one of those was in the end zone where he dropped it, or I think he fell on it wrong or whatever. He easily could have had a touchdown last week, but Addison and Osborne to me are very similar. Obviously, Addison got the touchdown last week, but Osborne, obviously the third option behind Jefferson and Hawkins and whoever you play. So that's where it becomes a little bit of a can of worms that no matter who you play, they're probably not going to have the largest floor for their tag, especially comparing them to, Swift or whatever. And you see this price range here, and it's really gross. I mean, outside of Swift, that's why Swift is hitting so much, because you got to play one of these kickers or you got to play Swift. And Eagles defense is 4.4K. I mean, maybe you could make the same case that we made the last couple last week, I should say, last couple slates, where I don't like the Philly running backs. Maybe you can go to the defenses and kickers more, but I don't know. I think I'm really going to be paying attention to Coach Speak, and I know that we're very good at that in our Discord. Anything that Nick Sirianni says, we're going to find out what's going to be put in the chat. He can even hint that Boston Scott could be the lead guy, and then I'll be signed up all over it. That's why it's so important to be in the Discord, AP, is that we got everyone on top of this news. Everyone's wondering the same thing. Who's going to be the lead back?
Well,
you'll find out.
Was DeAndre Swift just ass cheeks or what? I took JBC's advice on, I think I took a nap during the 1 p.m. games, and then I woke up at halftime and I started watching football. So I missed part of it. Was he just ass or what happened there? It's just Gainwell was much better.
Gainwell. It was all Gainwell, and that was it. And that's the thing that scares you, right? Is that you're going to have 20 touches go around.
It's just so random. And I know these Thursday slates are random, more so with defenses and kickers. But the one thing, if a cheap running back beats me tonight, it beats me. I don't really care. All right, let's keep this going. Again, I've said it a few times now, an aggressive schedule as always on these showdown slates, especially when we have a milli up top. Use the code NFL17, 17% off. We have Cash Showdown show for members only. That's at 12:30 p.m. We have the Print Factory with Big T, JSU, and Whistles Go Woo at 2 p.m. And then the Showdown Kings, JBC, and our guy Wiley taking us up to lock, and other guests will hop on. One of them, I assume, will be our guy Big T. Let's go to kind of our final thoughts, our final plays at our favorite three captains, and then any other bets that we like. Stats, let me kick it over to you. Your three favorite captains for tonight. Who do you think those guys are going to be?
So I think obviously the two quarterbacks, and then I'm going to say Brown outscores Jefferson tonight, so that's the way I'm going to go. Take. Yeah,
I mean, are you making in those builds? So that would be a Brown captain build. Jalen Hurts is automatically in those lineups, right?
You can't. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but yes, you're going to have. I would have either Hurts or Cousins in every single lineup, and then you're going to want at least a pass catcher. We never do 5-1. It's going to be 4 2s and 3 3s. So yes, you're going to always have the quarterback in there with one pass catcher. It doesn't always hit, but the probability of that is going to be greater. So yeah, my prediction on this one, if you look in the betting markets, Brown is actually slightly favored ahead of Jefferson to score a touchdown. They're only a 20-yard differential on their yardage prop. So that's 2 points, and obviously that's made up really easily if he gets in the end zone. So I think Brown, I like him to outscore Jefferson tonight. So, and if you're going to play into maybe the Cousins primetime narrative, then maybe you can get off the running backs and get the Philly defense in there. But not really my favorite build. If you're doing a single entry, that could be a way that you'd want to go, though.
Yeah, that's definitely like a narrative type of build. And again, like Kirk Cousins for me, like when I'm running, like if I go back to like Monday, I'm only playing a quarterback and then the opposing defense with certain types of players. So just to add some context to that, it's a player like Josh Allen and Rubio. We talked about it early on in that show. We talked about how the Jets defense is just so good. They're going, Josh Allen is going to turn the ball over. It's what he does. And then what happens is he has the ball in his hands even more. And we were leaning on the rushing upside. And that, even though he had one of the worst games you could possibly have, his floor was still so high given his rushing upside. You just don't get that with a Kirk Cousins who's going to rely on the Justin Jeffersons and Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne to get it done, with yards after the catch and, landing in the box. So you're just not going to get that kind of same floor from a guy like Kirk Cousins. So like if I was running a Philly defense, I don't think I'd have Cousins in there. I definitely would try to have like a Justin Jefferson type in that build though, because it's just going to create more opportunities for him. Rubio, 3 favorite captains tonight, and what's your game script? Any bets you like? Overs, Eagles, Vikings, etc.
I got the Eagles spread -6.5. That was the bet that I made yesterday at the sports book because it's now legal in Kentucky. It's real nice. Want to know last week, with the Lions money line, that felt great, guys. No, but I do think the top 3 captains are Hurts, Brown. I'm going to check DeAndre Swift's Instagram. So I'm going to do the stuff that no one else does for you. I'm going to see if
that's what I do in golf, PGA. I'm checking the golfers, their wives, families, seeing who's all excited and everything.
Yeah, see, that's why I got to see. Hey, it paid off the other day. I don't know who it was in the preseason or whatever, but they posted something on their story that made you think, yeah, that guy. It was Jason Bean in college football for Kansas. He posted on the story, and it was some Drake song in the background saying he's ready for this moment. And you knew he was going to be the starter once you saw that. It might have been 5 hours in advance. But if DeAndre Swift posts something on his social media, I'm going to be there to find out. I'm going to be like, oh, DeAndre Swift's getting the load tonight. It's going to be Hurts, Brown, and depending on Swift's Instagram story, my 3rd favorite captain.
I like that. Again, NFL 17% off. Come check out the Sabersim package. Make sure that you are going over to the bet side. The bet side, those guys are absolutely killing it. Use the tool in the Sharp app, the proptimizer. I think it's going to be essential in helping to help you create showdown lineups, especially if you play like me. If you play single entry, if you play 3 max, where you can still run the numbers. Like even on Monday, like I didn't just hand build that. I ran all the numbers. We actually did the lineup on the show. It was one of those that popped up. And then when I was reviewing it, I just was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to run with. I really like that script that we talked about. That's what I'm doing. And when I do it with 3 max, I'm creating 3 different scripts. Because, one thing that we talk about all the time is just what's your risk tolerance. There's so many different ways to really, achieve risk aversion. You can spread out your exposure. You can dial it back and focus on single entry, 3 max type of contests. And you can, figure out different ways to take shots. I don't like taking shots on these, or I don't like just absolutely going in on these Thursday night slates. I got owned last year when I did it. We often saw these most random things happen. That is in the realm of possibilities tonight. So really, it all comes down to that risk tolerance and making sure that you're aligning with that and what your objectives and goals are. For me tonight, my favorite captains, I'm right there with you, Statsational. I want the skill position players. And now I don't have it locked in yet, but my goal is Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, or Justin Jefferson. Because when I look at what these teams have done previously, when I look at target share and various projections, those are the guys that more often than not land in those captain spots. For the final guy for our winner, and then actually I'm going to do one Twitter giveaway as well. But Matty Ice, 704, man, you're always in the Discord grinding, bringing the good mojo. Hit me up in Discord. We're going to get you that other $100 ticket. Statsational. Any final thoughts tonight?
I mean, yeah, that's about it. I like I said, kickers. Someone mentioned in the chat something about kickers at the captain. I wouldn't do it today myself. In this game, we never do it, but I think it's a bad idea in this game. And I think if it's going to be one running back, I think you could take a shot with if you're going to play a single entry, take a shot on Scott over Swift just to get yourself differentiated there. And it's just going to be if one of them needs to score a touchdown. I don't think they're going to get it on just on volume. So I think one of them has to score a touchdown for you, and it's just going to be dependent on which one that is. So I'll take Scott over Swift.
All right, very good. Rubio, final thoughts. I'm going to let you close this one out today. When we've had you close, it's always been good mojo. So close us out, my man.
Oh, well, NFL 17% off for life. It probably ends in, I don't have my watch on, but just a few days. I think it'll end this week for y'all. So make sure you get in now. It's the best deal. There ain't going to be a promo after this, man. If you want 17% off the best content in the world, you got to get in now. This deal lasts for a lifetime. This deal lasts for an entire NBA season, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one.